Welcome back, everybody, to the Innovation Brief, the show that's all about helping you turn your work team into innovators.
That's right.
And we are so glad you're here with us today.
Absolutely.
We've got a really fascinating deep dive for you all today, something that's super important for all of you leading the charge out there, chief innovation officers, CEOs, directors, tech leaders.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about the difference between creativity and innovation.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It is a big one, and it's something that I think a lot of people, kind of use those terms interchangeably.
Yeah, for sure.
But if we're going to really unlock the power of innovation, we need to understand what each one means and how they work together.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because they're definitely distinct, but also very, very connected.
Yeah.
So it is important to understand both.
So how would you explain that? What's that core difference?
Well, you can think of it this way. Creativity is about conceiving something new, right? It's that spark, that initial idea, the what if moment, where you imagine something that hasn't been done before.
Okay.
And then innovation is about taking that creative spark and turning it into something tangible, something that solves a problem or, meets a need in the world.
That makes sense.
So it's really about putting that creativity into practice.
Okay, so let me try to apply that to something concrete, like the development of electric vehicles.
Yeah.
So the initial concept of a car powered by electricity,
Yeah.
that was like a creative leap.
Exactly. Yeah, that was a huge break from the norm, right? Instead of relying on, the combustion engine, which had been around for over a century, they said, what if we could power a car using electricity?
Totally.
That's a completely different vision for transportation.
And then from that vision, then came all the innovation of, well, how do you actually build this thing?
Exactly. Yeah. How do you design it? How do you engineer it? How do you make it safe, appealing to consumers, overcome all the technical challenges of battery technology, charging, infrastructure, all of that?
And it's not just the technical stuff either. Think about like the frunk, right? The front trunk space you get in a lot of electric cars because there's no big engine.
Oh, yeah. That's a great example because it's something that wouldn't have been possible without that initial creative leap of imagining a car without a traditional engine.
Yeah.
And then the innovation comes in, figuring out, okay, now that we have this space, what can we do with it? How can we make it functional? How can we make it, a selling point for consumers?
Yeah, it's amazing how those seemingly small innovations can have such a big impact on, the user experience, how a product is marketed, everything.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it highlights something really important, which is that creativity isn't just something that happens at the beginning of the process.
Right.
It's needed throughout the entire innovation journey.
So it's not like you have your creative brainstorm and then you hand it off and then it's just innovation time.
Exactly. It's not a linear process like that. It's much more dynamic and cyclical.
So it's like a dance between the two.
Yeah.
I like that analogy. Yeah, it's like a dance.
You might start with this, brilliant creative concept, but as you begin to innovate, you inevitably encounter challenges and roadblocks.
Right.
And that's when you need to tap back into that creative spirit to problem solve, to find workarounds, to adapt and refine your approach.
Makes sense. And I bet we've got some good examples of that from the EV world, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We can dive into some of those in a bit.
Cool. Well, let's take a quick break and then we'll come back and explore those examples and talk about what all this means for you and your teams.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we're back. And before the break, we were talking about this dance between creativity and innovation.
Yeah.
And how it's not a straight line from point A to point B. There's a lot of back and forth.
Right, exactly.
So I'm curious, what are some examples of that from the electric vehicle world that really highlight that interplay?
Well, one that comes to mind is the whole challenge of safety in electric vehicles, right? Because you have this huge battery pack that's, pretty heavy, and it changes the entire weight distribution of the car.
Right.
So traditional design principles for, crash safety and things like that, they didn't quite apply anymore.
So they had to get creative.
Exactly. They had to rethink the whole structure of the car, where to place components, how to reinforce certain areas.
And that led to innovations like, what are those things called? Crawl spaces, I think.
Yes, crawl spaces. Those are like these cleverly integrated areas within the car structure that are designed to absorb impact in a crash.
Yeah.
And they not only improve safety, but they also can enhance the aerodynamics of the car.
Interesting. So it's like a win-win.
Exactly. And it's a great example of how, creative problem solving can lead to these breakthroughs that you wouldn't have gotten if you just tried to force fit old solutions onto a new technology.
Right. It's like you have to kind of break the mold sometimes.
Absolutely. And that's where that creative spirit is so essential.
So if we're trying to turn our teams into innovators, What does all of this mean for us? Like, how do we actually put these insights into practice?
Well, I think the key takeaway here is that you need to foster an environment where that interplay between creativity and innovation is constantly happening.
Okay.
It's not enough to just have, one brainstorming session at the beginning and then say, okay, now go innovate.
Right.
You need to weave creative thinking into every stage of the process.
So what does that look like in practice?
It means empowering people to challenge assumptions, to experiment, to take risks, even if it means failing sometimes.
Because failure is part of the process.
Exactly. Failures can be incredibly valuable learning opportunities. They can help us refine our understanding of the problem, identify new possibilities, and ultimately lead us closer to those truly breakthrough innovations.
It reminds me of something you said earlier about how innovation isn't always about coming up with something completely brand new.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's about finding clever ways to improve what already exists.
That's right. And a great example of that is, have you heard of the spherical tire concept?
Oh, yeah. Those are pretty wild.
Right. It's this radical reimagining of something that we've taken for granted for over a century. The traditional tire.
It could change everything.
It really could,
Mhm.
It has the potential to revolutionize not just the way we drive, but also how we design cities and infrastructure.
It's mind-blowing.
It is, and it really highlights the power of creative thinking when applied to even the most fundamental aspects of our world.
So it's like those things that we just assume have to be a certain way?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe they don't.
Maybe they don't. And I think that's what makes this whole topic of creativity and innovation so exciting.
Yeah.
It's about constantly pushing boundaries and exploring new possibilities.
Yeah, and I think for our listeners out there, the leaders who are trying to drive innovation within their organizations,
Right.
this is such a crucial insight. Like, it's not just about generating ideas. It's about creating a culture where those ideas can flourish and be transformed into tangible results.
Exactly. It's about fostering that dynamic environment where creativity and innovation fuel each other. And that's what ultimately drives meaningful progress and sets your organization apart.
This has been so insightful. I think what's really sticking with me is that creativity and innovation aren't two separate things. They're two sides of the same coin.
Couldn't agree more. And embracing that reality is what allows leaders to really unlock the innovative potential within their organizations.
Absolutely. And for those of you listening who are ready to take that next step to turn your work team into innovators,
Yes.
we encourage you to visit IdeaScale.com.
You can book a demo for a free trial and start putting these insights into action today.
And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the Innovation Brief for more deep dives into the world of innovation.
New episodes drop every Tuesday and Friday, packed with actionable advice and insights to help you stay ahead of the curve.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode, so leave a comment below and let us know what resonated with you or if you have any questions.
Yeah, we love hearing from you.
Thanks for joining us today, and remember,
Turn your work team into innovators.
and if you're listening, you're like, okay, all this creativity and innovation stuff sounds great, but like, how do we actually make it happen?
Yeah, right. How do we get there?
IdeaScale has got your back.
That's right. We provide the tools and the resources that you need to build that culture of innovation that we've been talking about, from ideation all the way through to implementation.
So you can capture those creative sparks.
Exactly. Get your team collaborating effectively.
Turn those ideas into real-world solutions.
That's the goal.
And who knows, maybe you'll be the one, leading the charge on the next frunk or the next spherical tire.
Yeah, why not? The possibilities are endless when you unlock that power of creativity and innovation.
Well, this has been another fantastic deep dive. I always learn so much from you.
Well, the pleasure is all mine. I always enjoy these conversations.
For everyone listening out there, we want to thank you for joining us today. And remember,
Turn your work team into innovators.